to what is necessary and needed. And the one thing I know, Georgina, you might you might have wanted to talk about this a little bit later on, but I'll say it now, like during the holiday time, I know this past year we haven't been traveling because of the pandemic and because of COVID, but during the holiday time, Georgina and Ashley reached out to us and said, well, we usually have a big holiday celebration. We're not going to have that. So can we donate those funds to you, and you could use it out however you think makes most sense for the students, and to have that freedom to be able to support our students in whatever way they needed to was just so amazing. And so we gave, and that's something we never even talked about publicly. It was just one of those things where they're like, we want to help. Here's a way for us to help. And then as a result, like, we have families who have either lost loved ones because of the pandemic and were struggling during the holidays to be able to support them, or being able to provide families with dinner or with holiday presents like that they could not have afforded otherwise. So again, I could speak at length about how amazing this partnership has been, but I think that is just such a like a peek into the magic. And I'm just really, again, so grateful to Georgina and the entire team for just making this a really seamless process. Because I think oftentimes when you work with companies or foundations, like, there could be a lot of things to do and things to make the partnership like really meaningful, but it's just been such a seamless and easy process. So I'm just super grateful to all of you. Would you add anything to that? I feel like I talked a bunch.
No, thank you. I feel like you're really patting us on the back right now, but just to sort of talk about the process, I guess, behind it. Is that Ash?
Yeah, I just said you're so sweet, Carmela. We love you.
Yeah, we do love you. But we just have a love for the projects that you're working on, and you're kind of like what you're trying to achieve. It just aligns with us so much. Exploration for growth. We're traveling around the world to grow ourselves and to learn about different cultures and to bring that back to our community, and all of us learn together. So we started out, I kind of like pitched this to some of the leadership team, and we were thinking we'll just do a drip feed of little donations, see how it goes. But we all got so excited about how aligned we actually are that we managed to sign off straight away funding a whole trip. So that's what we're doing, and obviously because of COVID it's been delayed, but Carmela, we're hoping that will happen in November. Are we saying now?
Yeah, I think our goal is the fall. I mean, November would be great, but we're fingers crossed. I think we'll finally say when we're going, when we have flights and we have vaccines and everything is good, but it's just fingers crossed until then.
Yeah. So, like Carmela said, we've continued to be in constant contact, make sure that even though the students, bless them, have been delayed and they're not traveling, that we're still engaging with them, or through Carmela and the team, and making sure we're picking up on any needs that are coming up, like they did it in the holidays. That was a lovely little add-on that we managed to support. And when that trip does happen, if it's November or a little bit later, we're really hoping to have at least 1 or 2 crossover days where we join in and see what the students are up to, and really kind of like work with them, and maybe set up like a collaboration moment where we can get the students involved in our products, and just really get mucked in there and actually really make a difference, instead of just saying here's some money, see you later kind of thing. So we really want to kind of like engage fully in this program, and it's just been a shame it's been on hold, but it's kind of meant that we've been able to get closer and grow our relationship over the past few months, even though it's always been on Zoom. I'm willing to come to Hawaii, Camilla. I will.
More than welcome.
So that's kind of like our always on and our destination stuff. So just to kind of like sort of reiterate that the running theme here is that we have that authentic connection, and I think that that's something that, whether you're coming from a brand perspective or a personal perspective, when you're looking for these charitable and organizations to engage with, that's the thing, the takeaway thing here, I think, is to really try and find something that you really connect with and that it feels authentic to you. Future programs, I really briefly mentioned Greece. This is in the really early stages. We haven't actually fully signed this off, but I can just give you a bit of an idea, just to show you how different things can be under the same kind of umbrella. So our Greece collection is really very much a celebration of all the artists that we met on our journey. We actually went across a vast amount of the country and the islands. We covered a lot of ground. So we met a lot of people along the way, and we're kind of telling their stories through their products. And we spent a lot of time with each artist, and we kind of see them all as friends now. We feel like we've got an extended Greek family now. And on the left is someone called Miato. She's probably going to hate me for that photo. It's the only one I could find, but she's wonderful. She's our ceramicist, and she has a really, really beautiful story about the way that she makes her ceramics. She incorporates elements of things that she's inherited from her grandma. Her grandma was really integral in her bringing her up because she had problems at home. It's really beautiful story. So, but her background is actually in art therapy. She studied in the UK and she practiced in the UK, but she's Greek and she went back to Greece, and she now just is a full-time ceramicist. And through talking with her and spending a lot of time with her, it became apparent that there's this huge gap in her community for kind of this kind of therapy, alternative therapies, or really just mental health therapies in general. It's something that's lacking a little bit, which is quite a shock, really, because it's a developed country. It's it's part of Europe. But in her comparison, because she's lived in the UK and Greece, she felt like it was quite behind and quite lacking in that area. And it's something that she really wanted to, or had always wanted to set up, was this community-led art therapy sessions that she just couldn't get off the ground, because obviously she's working full-time. So we're looking to support that kind of project. So we're in the talks with all the art therapists that we're going to get involved, and the charity that we're going to run that through. And it was just going to be hopefully another really beautiful project, which is so wildly different to what we're doing in Bali, which is quite heavily looking at sort of environmental issues, but it's still something that's really dear to our heart. And the reason that, like I said, it can all fit under that same umbrella is because that authentic connection that we've made with that person in the community, and we know how impactful it's going to be to her community, because we've spent so much time, with her, understanding what the needs are. And the funds that we said, like 5% of the collection and 100% on one of her items that we'll be selling, we're confident that will fund this program. So it's really exciting. Watch this space. It's obviously not launching yet, or come when the collection comes, but just to sort of give you that idea of how diverse we can be with these these charitable sort of, what am I thinking, organizations that we get involved with, and they can be really different to each other. Oh, that's us doing some potter's wheel, which I can sort of say is very, very therapeutic in itself. So there'll be a lot of that. There'll be all different mediums of art therapies that are on offer through the programme. And then, so I know I've talked a lot from like a brand perspective, but like I said, I do think a lot of like the way that we approach our charitable work across sort of globally can be applied to sort of yourselves if you're thinking about doing it on a personal level. So sort of an easy way to get involved without leaving your front door is to participate and buy into the cause. So look out for brands who run CSR programs you believe in. Sounds really obvious, but sometimes it's not at the forefront of your mind when you are purchasing. A couple of brands that I love what they're doing in terms of CSR programs, and obviously sorts of brands that you buy into when you are an explorer or a traveller, is Tom's, the canvas shoes. They're a really beautiful program where it started out that it was just every pair of shoes that you buy, they gift, an underprivileged child with a pair of shoes in the third world who doesn't have shoes. And it's grown to this huge, huge program now where they're helping all sorts of different causes around the world. So that's a fantastic one. Patagonia, I'm sure you've all heard of. They've own a huge space in the CSR kind of area in terms of environmental and community based as well. And Gandhi's, which is one that is not as familiar with, but it's actually run by two really interesting guys. They're brothers, and they're actually survivors of the tsunami, the huge tsunami in 2001, I want to say, where unfortunately they lost their family members, but they were survivors of that tragedy, and it didn't put them off traveling. In fact, it spurred them to become like global travelers, and that be their main focus. And they've set up this kind of brand where you can buy really beautiful rucksacks and all sorts of things for your travels, but it's really fueled by the give back component, and they kind of look to build schools in lots of the different areas that they travel to. And obviously, of course, what I've kind of said from the beginning is finding that authentic connection yourself. So simply to look out for volunteer work and community engagement whilst you're on your travels. And a lot of our explorers already do this. I sort of have got some links a little bit later, and Camilla's got some as well. I mean, I'm kind of leaning more towards like there's only so much you can do with a Google search. There are things out there that you can research, but I really believe in kind of like, you know, that slow travel approach, spending time in the communities that you're traveling through, and then that's where you're going to find a point of difference where you can really engage. So just a few photos here of something that I engaged in once when I was in Sri Lanka. I spent over a month in the country, and I was up just north of Kandy, spent some time on a tea plantation, the Ashburnham estate. And on the left there, you've got the local naturalist and the resident chef of the house that we were staying in. On the grounds of the particular tea estate, there's an indigenous village that hasn't engaged in the kind of, you know, the current sort of state that Sri Lanka is in. They've kept themselves very separate to that community, and everyone who owns that land has allowed them to continue to live there, even though it's actually owned by them. But obviously what it means where they don't actually engage with you know, the sort of like more modern side of Sri Lanka is that they do sometimes have medical needs and you know, nutritional needs that can't be met within their own community. So led by these guys, they often do like weekly or bi-weekly visits up to their village, see if they need any medical attention from outside, and they do these huge cookouts with all of the leftovers from the estate. So that's us helping out in one of those cookouts, and we went up there and we kind of like fed the village, and it turns into this whole like huge festival where no one's really speaking the same language, but everyone eats loads of food and gets really excited, and it's just a really lovely community-led thing that we got involved in. And just by chance we came across that by spending time with these guys while we're on the road. And then some of our explorers as well, they do really similar things. So this is Dom and Jess, who are part of our exploration network. So on the left, you can see them looking absolutely stunning and having a lovely time, but they spent about 4 months during the first sort of lockdown, the first wave of the pandemic. They found themselves in the Philippines. So they just stayed on one island instead of going home. In Siargao in the Philippines. But what they did do when they were there, because they were spending so much time in the community, was see how they could give back in any sort of small way. So they were like, you know, feeding the dogs the island was absolutely overrun with like stray dogs. And they engaged with a guy who was trying his best to kind of like keep them all healthy and feed them. So they were doing that every day. Any spare money that they had, they were buying extra huge bags of rice and taking them around to the communities who were hit really hard by the pandemic and had completely lost their trade. You know, their restaurants had shut down, their hotels, their B&Bs had all shut down because there was no tourism. So they spent their whole 4 months on the left having a lovely time, but on the right actually making sure that every day or every other day they're engaging with really important causes that the community around them needed help with. And then we have another explorer, this is Ramsey. She lives in Chile at the moment. She's from Venezuela originally, but she's currently traveling in Chile. And she has a really interesting approach to the way that she travels. For the past year, the way that she's been approaching it is kind of, she funds herself by doing some remote work. She's a digital nomad. She does a lot of like, you know, website design. She's doing some content creation for us. But what she's been doing for the past year is trying to sort of engage with each. She spends quite a bit of time in each place that she shouldn't move around too fast. She's doing that slow travel approach, and she, you know, she engages with people. She sees if she can offer any kind of services for a meal or for a place to stay that night. And often that finds her in some really interesting situations where she's helping the community. So I think at the moment she's been doing things like she's got a motorbike, so she's been driving quite far to help provide like medical equipment to one of the doctor's surgeries that's in the middle of nowhere where she was staying. So she's doing all sorts of different things, and you know, in return for just like a simple meal or a sit down and a chat and find out about more what they've got going on. So really interesting sort of like that personal approach. Having said that, obviously I know that that's not always the way that people want to approach these things. Like I know if you want to go somewhere, you might want to put the research in and kind of set something up before you go. So I'm not saying that can't happen. It's just like a personal preference and a brand preference that we actually experience these things first, and on the road we make these connections. But here's a couple of helpful articles or sites that can point you in the right direction or give you pointers if you're looking to do that planning up front, and actually sort of like get quite a bit of that sort of sorted before you set off, if that's what you're looking to do. But in general, outside of these, I think Carmela's got a few that she was going to share as well. I would say that it's always a good idea to try and engage with the official tourism board of the country you intend to visit. 9 times out of 10, they'll be able to point you in the right direction. They'll probably have a list of charitable foundations that are accepting volunteers from abroad, or at least, some legit ones that are actually either registered or the equivalent of if they're trying to be registered. Like I said at the beginning, each country is very different with what they kind of, deem as a formally registered charity. Some governments don't recognise them at all. There's no way for a charity to be formally registered, so don't be put off by some that just can't be. But usually, kind of, it's kind of you've got to have a bit of street smart about you. If it seems suspect, it probably is. If when you're asking the questions like, what's your registered charity number, etc., or have you got a website I can have a look at, etc. If you're getting positive answers, even if the answers are we can't register fully in our country, but this is what we've got, etc., then that's a good sign. If you're getting a pushback and you're getting kind of negative response from that, then the likelihood is that it might not be quite where you want to be. But yeah, like I say, most places that I've ever engaged with, or I've got friends or travellers that do this sort of thing, would say that that's a really good point of starting point is with the official tourism board of that country. They're usually someone who can point you in the right direction. So Carmela will share a few more links, and obviously we'll share these with you if you're interested, and you can ask some questions if you would like to.
This is so amazing. Thank you so much, Georgina. I thank you so much for those links at the end. I also sent around a bunch in the chat, and we could send them around as well, like post this Zoom call. But what I love and what I think is so, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I think what's so important and I think so valuable about what you do, and I think it's important for us all to remember, is like the time and intention it takes to finding those organizations. Because I feel like oftentimes, we have like, we want to help, and then we go somewhere and then it's like, you want that quick feel good, like I helped someone do something. But I think what's great about what you do and what you're trying to teach is that how long it takes sometimes to form the relationship, really understand what the needs are. And then as a result, then the impact is just so much greater than just that one piece. So I know we have about 10 minutes left. I wanted to open it up to questions from folks in the chat. So feel free to drop it in, any questions you have in the chat. Any of the team from Crabtree want to add anything while we wait for some questions to pop up?
Sorry, I'm just laughing at the chat. We're always crying.
Oh, that was me.
We are always crying. It's true, we are, but in a loving way and not in a sad way.
Yeah, happy tears.
Happy tears. And yeah, just echoing what you said, Carmela, I think that, depending on what your outcomes are for if you're wanting to engage in this sort of thing personally, like really putting the time in, really it means you'll get the biggest reward. Like it's such a sort of complex thing actually, that sometimes that Google search isn't going to cut it. So if you've got something in mind, it's either finding someone who's already been there, done it, or you've got this personal connection already. Like for us, Wyan, we already had Ash, brilliant. Greece, we didn't have it, but we spent enough time finding that person, and really, but she became our friend. She is our friend now, so we trust what's going to go on with her. Or when you get on the ground, do some asking and do some spending time with the communities. That's how we've always approached it.
Yeah, I think there's I've volunteered places before where you donate to places, but there's just something incredibly special about crafting and growing a personal relationship, an authentic relationship with a local. My relationship with Wyan started 4 or 5 years ago now. He was my taxi driver that picked me up at the airport, and I've been back to Bali about 7 or 8 times since, and every time our relationship grew, and I would spend time with his wife and his children, and then to get to truly understand very hyper local needs. and to be able to craft something incredibly specific to give back to a community that has given so much to me, and likewise with Greece to the girls, the exploration team that's been there. It's quite powerful. That's why we cry all the time. It's fine.
Someone was asking how
Yes.
many in the team are involved in the CSR program. This, to be fair, our team is very small. Even though it looks like we do a lot. So sort of first and foremost, there would be three. I would say it's Ash, myself, and Rita, our manager on the department. But this program touches all cross-functional parts of the business at some point. So creative are involved in those beautiful videos that you saw, and getting out social, involved in making sure that our communities know what we're doing. So yeah, so there's and the legal team have obviously been a huge component to this to get it off the ground. We wouldn't have been able to do it without them. The financial team, who have to kind of do all the stuff that Ash and I hate looking at, all the spreadsheety stuff, and making sure that they're paying them from the right part of the world to go to that part. So there's a lot of people it touches, but I would say the people that are actually engaging with the communities and kind of doing that upfront work is just the three of us, really.
And this program is in its infancy, as like our rebrand is, and so you know, the dream and future state is to have a way to engage the entire organization in these efforts. You know, if it wasn't COVID and if we were just rolling in profits right about now, you know, I would want nothing more than to put our entire team on a plane and go somewhere and volunteer and have these intimate experiences for everyone. Right now we're limited in that regard, but you know, it's the dream, right? We'll hold on to it.
I love that. And oh, here's another question. How has what you do with the CSR program changed with what you do outside the program?
I suppose, well, unfortunately, since it's launched, we've been stuck. So like Ash said, we haven't actually been able to physically take ourselves somewhere and get ourselves involved in these communities again in that physical sense. But I guess creating the program at the beginning, like I said, like having that mental checklist, I guess I am applying that to things like I said, I touched on, you know, like who am I going to buy, what brand am I going to buy with, and why, like how am I going to participate in other causes that are important to me, because I've done that mental checklist myself through this brand. It's kind of helping me to view other causes and brands that are out there. My eyes are a bit more open to it. And yeah, and I think if we'd have been able to jump on planes, like Ash said, I think there'd have been a hell of a lot more sort of physical involvement in different things that we could have done since kind of embarking on this journey. But until then, I'll just keep buying stuff so that supports causes. Yeah,
that's great. I love that. And I think what you said about having your eyes more open, because I think once it's almost like a muscle, like exercising, right? Like once you think, okay, I could just buy, if I need a new t-shirt, like I could just buy it from any old brand. But then if you now have this mindset of like, well, can I buy it from a brand that has a more sustainable, ethical impact? Then it's almost like you're just practicing with every purchase. You're practicing of making, you know, your purchases and your money go to a more worthwhile cause than just, you know, I don't know, the bucket of Amazon or whatever it is, you know, like just being really more intentional. And I think that's really huge. And so I'm trying to think of anyone else have any more questions? I know I could ask lots of questions, but I want to make sure all you folks out there have a chance to answer any of the burning questions about Crabtree and I want to say Evelyn, but I feel like I'd just be faking an accent. So I'm just going to say Evelyn.
Everyone says Evelyn. It is Evelyn, but everyone says Evelyn. Even everyone who works here, it's fine.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it's totally fine.
Wait, so Ash, a quick question for you. I know the rebrand is still in its infancy, as is the CSR program. So how was it starting that? I know like to take a brand from not having a CSR program to one that's huge and very impactful, like what was that process like and how did that even kind of get started?
I knew there was so much involved in the rebrand in general, but you know, we did such a deep dive into our target consumer and you know, millennials, Gen Z, impact and give back is so incredibly important to them when they purchase with brands, exactly what you were just saying. And we knew that putting exploration at the heart of the brand and doing these curated sort of capsule collections of products just gave us such an opportunity to make an impact across the globe. So it was honestly, it was Georgina that really put all of the foundation down for us. I had an idea, and she sort of crafted the strategy and put all the pieces in motions for us. And like she said, the relationship with Wyan was so organic. We were very fortunate in that regard. And so now we're just sort of, building on top of that. But it was definitely at the heart of what we wanted to express through the new vision of the brand. And G and the team have done a great job bringing it to life.
I love that. And I think I think the power of the story is so important. And I loved, you saying you met 4 or 5 years ago, and then it's just something that grew organically. And what you said about the hyper local needs. And I think, you can think about Bali and it's like, oh, Bali needs, I don't know, something to help with the plastic problem. And I think someone new coming in could say, okay, that's a need, but then to drill down into what is the specific need of the community, how could they essentially be the one to lead it, I think is so important, because having their voice is just so critical. And I love that you listen so deeply and then create this program as a result of that.
So the whole brand idea is really about that authentic connection. There are every beauty brand in the market, finds an ingredient somewhere, or, has a coconut inspired by wherever in the world. Yeah. Right. And I'm a very authentic person, too much. So most of the time, it gets me into a lot of trouble. But, I really wanted to cut the bullshit out of it, to be honest. And, we wanted to actually go to these places, actually explore, actually talk to people on the street. The girls, I don't allow them to have a set agenda when they go on a trip somewhere. We're not staying at 5-star hotels. We're not going based on TripAdvisor.
Right.
Kind of why are you going to this tourist place? We need to get that off of there. And I want time built into their trips where they're literally just wandering the streets and talking to people, and actually splitting up sometimes, because my most impactful relationships that I have encountered through my travels have been while I've been alone, because you have a tendency to talk to strangers more than talk to the person that you're with.
Right.
So a lot of those things just sort of encourage this environment of sharing with local people, and just finding out, like you said, what their hyper local needs are, and what is most impactful on a personal scale, which actually can mean a lot more than, save the dogs, or, which I want to save all the dogs, trust me, I have one here, but it just makes it more special.
Yeah, I agree. We have another question. So the question is, when can we visit, when we can visit places around the world again? Can you recommend ways to find artists and artisans who are ethical and impactful in their communities? In one of these previous talks, someone recommended Vacation with an Artist, for example.
Never heard of Vacation with an Artist. Have you, G?
No, sounds good though.
Yes, thank you for the recommendation.
G, I'll let you take that if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's going to sound a bit vague, but it just goes back to that kind of finding a connection and spending time with someone. So in a way, Greece kind of followed a format of we found lots of Wyans. Sort of everywhere we went, we were engaging with these people and talking to them and making a connection and becoming their friend. And then you'd be like, oh, we're going to go to X, do you know anyone? And everyone that we've met is a connection of the first person in a way that we met. So one of the guys that we found, we fell in love with his beach towels that we found in Kefalonia. He introduced us to the ceramicist, who's part of an art collective, who we met loads of other people through. So it's about, I think, finding those, that even if you just find that one authentic connection, who's in that community, and you ask the right questions and you spend time, then they're going to be able to point you in the right direction. I think very rarely, if you're finding an artist that's operating out of their own studio, or they're selling off of a market stall or whatever, that they're going to be unethical. I think that'd be rare. Usually you're going to come into those kinds of problems if you're going into a mass market situation, which you're probably not going to if you're going down this road. And you're just going to find out if they're impactful in their communities and their you know, engaged in that through talking to them. But again, rare that they wouldn't be, rare that you would find an artist who's passionate about their work anywhere in the world who isn't, you know, empathetic about the environment around them and what's going on in their community. So it sounds vague, but it's and obvious, but it's just about talking to people when you're on the ground, really, or finding that one connection who can lead you to the next.
Yeah, and I think this sounds like kind of silly, but it's how I go about doing this, but it's like shopping, like wandering the streets and popping in and out of shops and just picking up different artisan made items and then asking the shop owner, you know, where they came from, how were they made, who were they made by? Just those like small little conversations. I mean, I competitive shop for a living sometimes for this stuff, and I know woe is me, right? So sad. But you know, I've discovered so many different types of artisans, you know, just by asking shop owners where stuff comes from, and who they know in the community that might do this, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, being able to hop in a car and go to the village where all the Add-A-Bag makers are, and you go to some woman's house and it's like a book club, and they kind of just, it's like a knitting club, and the women just come and go all day long with their bags of straw, and they just, you know, kind of weave together and then leave, and then the kids come out and they come back, and it's you know, just by talking to people and getting to be a part of those experiences is amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
I love that.
I'd say that even in Greece echoed what I've spent time in Bali as well. Like, if you find something, usually that shop owner or the market stall guy or whoever it is you're talking to selling that product will be able to lead you to where it came from, if it isn't the artist themselves selling it. I haven't come across a time when I haven't been able to kind of hunt someone down and like go and find where what house the Add-A-Bags are being made in, because usually these people that you're engaging with are just really beautiful, helpful people who, you know.
And never underestimate your driver. I've made more connections and learned more about local needs, local culture, like hidden tips and tricks and spots from my drivers.
Oh yeah.
Especially when I'm solo traveling. So they're always a good resource.
That's a great tip, because as someone who that's their job is to know where things are, and that's just such a great trick. I know Jody, who runs the website Legal Nomads, like that's her tip for finding great food is like, where do the taxi drivers eat? It's like, oh, that's probably where it's going to be affordable and delicious. Yep. But I think I kind of smiled to myself when Ashley were saying how you just kind of ask a lot of questions when you're in like these little shops and stalls, because I think that kind of lends itself to kind of your tagline, which is like born curious, grown wild. And I think the curiosity piece is just so vital. I guess travelers, it's just inherent curiosity just brings you so many places and helps you learn things that you would have just never thought you were going to learn. And that opens up to possibility, which I think is so important. So I know we are past time, but I know Christina, we have a little bit of like a giveaway. I don't know, but I wanted you to share. I know there's some more generosity on your end from Crabtree and Evelyn to our community. So I just wanted to give you a chance to share about that.
Yes, hi guys. Thank you so much for being part of this. Yeah, you want to send you an email with one special winner. We'll get fewer pieces from Bali, so you can touch them with hand. And we'll also have a code for you guys. It's going to be FLYTE 15, and we'll also include that in the email. And you can shop the Bali collection and any other thing you may like, and take a look at what we're doing.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you, Christina. And so full disclosure, my friends have described me as crunchy in terms of my beauty regimen, i.e. there's like usually nothing. And so I'm just so glad that now I'm like proud to say that I use toner every day, thanks to all of you. And it's been helpful with like my sunspots. So all that to say is I'm a believer, and I actually do things now for my face. But yeah, just all that saying is that if you are wanting to support Crabtree and Evelyn and all of the work that they're doing, FLYTE 15 is the code. I put it in the chat and we'll share it around in an email afterwards. And again, so grateful to you all for extending that to our community and for doing a giveaway of fun stuff for someone who's on the call right now. I'll just give it 1 second for any last minute questions from anyone. If not, we'll just hop on off and continue the rest of our day. Any last like final words, Georgina, Christina, Ashley, anyone from the team?
No, we love this community. We love FLYTE. We love you, Carmela. This has been like such an amazing partnership. I've been getting texts from my colleagues that are on this now saying, God, why don't we talk about this more? Because we get so caught up in the stress of every day and delivering results and, you know, selling friggin' hand cream. And like, yes, we have to sell hand cream to do this other stuff, you know,
Yeah.
but we lose sight sometimes. And you were mentioning what we did at the holiday season. I was like, oh my God, I totally forgot we did that. And it's like, this is why we're doing what we're doing. And so we absolutely love taking the time and having moments like this with you guys. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I'm so grateful for this community, not just Crabtree and Evelyn, but the wider Nomadic Network community. I think we all have that same shared value system of being curious, of wanting to know about know more about the world, but also give back in a meaningful way. So grateful to have all of you on here. I know in the invite on the website, there's ways that you could reach the folks at Crabtree. You could reach out to us if you have any questions for anyone on the call. We could definitely form those connections, but thank you to everyone. I know there's a lot of thank yous going on in the chat right now, but just everyone have a great day. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Thank you, Georgina, for putting together the presentation. Yeah, and we'll hopefully see you at the next one. Oh, sorry, Ashley, what was that?
And staying up late because it's late.
Oh, yes, it is late in London, time zones.
I almost forgot. Yeah, I'm gonna go straight to bed. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Have a good one.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.